So I brought Emmanuel. We have been long-time colleagues together, 7 years at least, no? And I know from Emmanuel's art as flutist that a lot of that comes from a proper breathing, because when you play flute, you need about 5 times more air than an oboist needs, or even 10. And what we have to establish is that, as we know, as I explained to you, when we breathe out, we relax. That's a very normal thing. We want to keep this relaxation in playing, but we need a power center in our stomach with the diaphragm down to have a counter pressure when we breathe out, so that there's always constant pressure in the emission of air. And how we do that? Emmanuel, show me.
Why'd you ask me? Why'd you ask me?
Now, how you breathe and how you make
sorry,
the
I'll get
support.
close to the microphone here,
Yeah.
so that this goes on tape.
Yeah.
We're doing fine there. Well, hi everybody. It's a privilege for me to be asked as an external alien expert about this. Yeah, we've had the opportunity to play many years together in the Berlin Philharmonic, and I know that in order to play together, you have to breathe together.
Yeah.
That's a very obvious and biological thing to do together. And then you don't worry about how early or how late the note's going to be, if it's going to be too loud or too soft or whatever. If you breathe together, you have the same
Entrance.
Yeah. The timing issue is not existing between the flutes and the oboe. It's actually a little more existing with the clarinet players, because they have a different principle in the way they attack. They start the tone on the instrument, and the biggest issue in clarinet playing is actually when the note is going to begin.
Yeah.
And for us, I think it's because we have no resistance from our instruments. We have a very close breathing and support system. Very close to what the singers or actors use for projection of the voice. And we do not use any strength anywhere to produce or to produce a certain level of pressure that's happening. But I think basically when we fill our lungs, we should be like a balloon that we've been blowing some air into.
Where do you fill the lungs first?
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Exactly.
When you start breathing, if you just do, it's not enough. You cannot do anything with this little apple of air that you've just been. You have to fill in.
So it goes into the lowest
You have to fill in to get the impression, to get the feeling that you send the air into your thighs, into your legs, so that you actually, basically, when we talk about the diaphragm is a reflex
It's a
muscle that's not controlled, but that's separating the digestive organs from the lungs and the breathing system, basically. And this is where, by opening the belt here, we allow more room towards all the digestive organs to go down and make more room for the lungs. And this is how having more room for the lungs, stop me if I'm wrong, but I think we share common views on this. Just by having more space, the pressure is going to be lower, and therefore there's going to be some air coming inside the body. That's what we call breathing. Yeah. And that the biggest capacity is achieved by lowering the digestive organs, lowering the diaphragm thus. And this is by pushing actually the belly outside on all sides. So working against your belt here, or against the pants, in all directions.
Exactly.
And that's a kind of air reservoir that we have there, and then we just control how much air is coming out of it by using a minimum amount of strength, but a maximum control of how much air is leaking out of that balloon that we've just been inflating. So that's merely the way I see things, and it makes it much easier than when you play the flute, instead of being struggling like this to play the flute, or like that, or very pressive with the shoulders. Everything that involves tension is in the way of the airstream and squeezes the air, or the dynamics, or the possibility to play fast, articulate.
How do you maintain a pianissimo? That it's very smooth and does not tremble and does hold the emission of air.
A pianissimo, actually, to one of the recipes to focus the sound. Exactly. And it corrects the intonation as well as the amount of air support. Because the big danger is when we say support, that we go like this. And by squeezing the muscles towards the inside and shrinking the volume here, we're doing exactly the opposite because we
relax the diaphragm.
We're not we
relax the diaphragm.
Exactly. We release it and it goes up, and there's nothing that we can expel anymore because we have no strength anymore.
So this means when you play the pianissimo, you really make a more pressure downwards.
I think for example, for large intervals like this, I would be going. You go
down. Yeah, not up, but down. This is very, very important to see that when we go to the higher energetic notes, we need to go more into the support because higher energetic notes need more of this power of emission. Yeah.
And in order to keep a note in the piano or the pianissimo, I think to project the air to focus in a point that's between the eyes and the nose.
Which is the resonance of the singers.
Which is the resonance of the singers and of any instruments. I was talking with trumpet players like Wynton Marsalis or other people like this I was lucky to meet last week. It's exactly the same for them. All these, to hit the right note when you're improvising and not to but to pa like this. You have to be focused here on every note. And to find the right setup of support by always keeping this point focused. For us flute players, we have to open it up so that it resonates at the same time. So this is why I like to think of horseradish or wasabi or mustard. When you eat too much of that, it just it opens up and your attention focuses here a lot. And it's a very good thing to think about in order to support in the pianissimo. It's not to think here of the lips. Yeah. We're not playing lip instruments, we're playing wind instruments. Right. And the important thing is the wind.
You know, I said, you're telling the same thing as Wolfgang Schulz tells. His parents have been singers teacher, both of them, you know.
Well, he's a lucky fellow,
absolutely lucky fellow. He comes from the birth to singing. And he always tells the same story with this resonance. And I'm trying to tell you about this resonance, that we focus, first of all, into the big mouth. We need to have it resonating. And in the moment it resonates in the mouth, it also starts resonating in the nose, when you go forward enough. Yeah. What I'm just always pointing out is also that we must make a little more of counter pressure because we have a resistance of reed. Yeah. And this means we must kind of push a little bit more, like breathe out against the diaphragm downwards, and then the air kind of, its imagination turns around and goes to the reed and gives the reed enough hit so it can vibrate even with little air. That's our problem in the pianissimo. Because many people tend then to bite the reed into a small size and make a small vibration, and it becomes very tiny and it starts trembling.
Well, the smaller the opening is not producing less air coming out. It's just producing a higher pressure of the air coming out. So it's not necessarily very good for playing softer. Exactly. On the contrary, I would say. Because the amount of air is making the dynamic. If you have lots of air, it sounds loud. If you have little air, it sounds softly. But if you squeeze, then you're playing with a higher pressure, and then usually the note leaks and goes to another.
And that's why I'm always saying to all of them, try to imagine the embouchure not as a pressure point, but as a surrounding the reed, surrounding point which allows the reed to keep the same openness as in forte, but make it in a round way a little bit smaller from the side, and keep the air in a wonderful pressure into the reed.
And I think something that is very important for oboe players in particular, and also probably trumpet players and horn players, the instruments with the biggest pressure to work against in a way, is to at the same time keep the ears as open as you can.
Absolutely.
So that you listen what's the feedback from
what comes out, you know, what is the sound coming out. We speak about this American playing, we had a lot of this discussion, and they say, do you like this sound, what comes out? Can we change it? Do you want it like this, or do we want to change it? And then how we do change this, exactly this. I'm very grateful, thank you. It's exactly but I was always amazed, I'm always saying, my friend Emmanuel, when he's breathing, he's like in 7th month. Can you show us this?
I'm like what?
In the 7th month of pregnancy.
That's where you put the air.
Because so many of the young players, they breathe and that's all they can do. You know, nothing comes out. Because it's all cramped, because we all breathe here, yeah? This is our cultural background. But in fact, we must learn to make the biggest possible balloon, that we have something to empty.
Yeah, unfortunately, the good looks
with flat stomach,
with a flat stomach, a flat belly, is not very useful for wind instruments.
Right, wind instruments don't make.
When we're playing, we really have to take the belly out as much as possible. Not in a hard way, not by hardening the belly, but just it's like inflating a balloon.
I had the same words from Heinz Holliger 40 years ago in a master class.
So nothing has changed.
Nothing
you
has
just got to
changed.
repeat it.
Yeah, but it repeats constantly. But because what comes in shows me that it's not often taught.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit sad.
Yeah. Well, we share all of this, you know, all of the woodwind instruments. That's why I was saying in the beginning, if we breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in a very relaxed way, but you fill yourself with lots of air. And
This is what
it's good.
This is
it
what
feels
Tom
good. You feel better because
this is what Tom Krause says. Tom Krause, the singer, you know, baritone. He says, breathing. We don't breathe. We are breathed from outside. Something breathes us. And he says you must feel the air falling into you, and you feel the happiness of energy in your stomach. And this word "happiness of energy" I like very much because when you have this, you're there. I'm strong. And now I can do something.
and your sound is the expression of this happiness.
Exactly, yeah. Should be. We hopefully. Because everything what squeeze, everything what is defending, what is anxious is not good. Is making projection until not even the first row. Yeah? But if you want to project the pianissimo up to the last row there, then you must have a very, very strong focused center which allows your sound, even in pianissimo, to swing out. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time. I'm here anyway.
And